Hello and welcome to Yarra Library's School Holidays program. I'm Andrew from Richmond Library and I'll be taking you through a fun cooking activity today. Yarra Libraries acknowledges that this recording was made on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people of the Kulin Nation. We pay tribute to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in Yarra and give respect to elders past, present and emerging. So today we're going to be making yum balls, which is a kid-friendly version of the Australian Christmas classic, rumballs. For this one, it's lots and lots of mucking around in the kitchen and crushing and stomping. So it's good fun for little kids as well as bigger kids. So for this one, we're going to need some biscuits. I like these ones, they're a bit sweeter than the ones that are usually arrowroot flavoured that you see these made out of. These are my favourites. Some sweetened condensed milk. Some desiccated coconut for putting on the outsides. Some hundreds and thousands for the little taste buds variant. Some smooshed up prunes for the adults in the room. Some cacao or some drinking chocolate or cocoa, depending on what your flavours are like. A silicone spatula, if you have one, they're very useful. A spoon will do if you don't. A nice big whacker. I've got a rolling pin and a heck of a one at that. So this is good fun for little hands. A tea towel and a Ziploc bag. One big mixing bowl. And as many little rolling plates as you have things that you want to put on the outside of your yum balls. So we're going to do 2 batches today, one with adult flavours and one with little taste buds flavours. So the first trick to it is to pop all of your sweet biscuits inside of a Ziploc bag. You don't want too much air in there because when we start hitting it, we don't want it to pop and suddenly send a spray of biscuits everywhere. Spread them out and pop them inside your tea towel. Now you can use a food processor for this, but this is a lot more fun for little hands. And it's just a bit more of a meaningful way for them to help take part as well. Plus you do want some big chunks of biscuit in there to sort of break up the texture, so it's not all one smooth paste. And from here, you give them a bit of a bash. So as you can see, it's starting to get nice and grainy. That's pretty good. Some of our chunks are still a little bit big, so we can get rid of some of the biscuits out of this into our big bowl. And anything that's really big, you can reveal by giving it a bit of a shake, and you'll see all the big pieces come to the top. And if they're a bit too big, you can chuck them back in the bag for more of a smash. Or if you're using a food processor, you're not going to have this extra little step, but it's nice to have the challenge, you know, handmade all the way, a bit of fun. And we give it another bash. You'll notice that I started at the outside of the bag and worked my way towards the middle, because if we start at one end and force all the way to an edge, we can cause the bag to break, because if we force too much stuff into one of the seams. But again, we don't want absolutely smooth. We want our yum balls to have But again, we don't want it to be perfectly smooth. We do want our yum balls to have a little bit of texture. Alrighty, at this point, we want to divide our biscuits into 2 separate little packs. That way, we're able to make our 2 different flavors. And the nice thing about this recipe is you do it completely by feel, and you don't really have to worry too much about getting it exactly right. If you go a little bit too over, save a little bit of biscuit so that you can fix that up. Now our prunes are really lovely dried plums. If they were called dried plums normally, I think they'd be a bit more appealing. Prune's not the best word for them. So if we throw a couple of handfuls of our biscuits in there, that's looking pretty good. We'll come back to those in a second. So for our regular yum balls, we're going to open our sweetened condensed milk now. and we pour out about half the tin. So having a bit of a go there. Now you can use your hands for this part if you're really keen on it, but I'm going to use the little spatula just to get it started. As you can see, it's coming together nicely. So this one's still pretty oozy. You can see how it's moving even after I give it a bit of a push. So what we can do is pinch back some of the dried biscuits and work them into the mix as well. So we can have a little bit of a test, see if they're going to hold their ball shape by picking them up, giving them a bit of a squeeze and seeing how they sit. That one's still really quite delicate to the touch, and if we leave it, you can see that it's pretty much holding its shape. So if we were going to make these a little bit firmer, you can pop them in the fridge after you're done with this, and that way they sort of firm up a good bit. Once you've done that, then you're able to roll them a bit more easily, but they're lovely and sticky from all that condensed milk. As you can see, it is going a bit floppy, so I would add a little bit more of our biscuit mixture. So from here, we'll take it to the fridge and give it a chance to set. Now, while we're waiting for our first batch to cool down enough to roll, we're going to do the adult flavored ones, or the more mature flavored ones. So for this one, I like my nutty ginger biscuits. These are very sweet, so we don't have to worry too much about extra condensed milk in these. And we're going to use our cacao as well. So we'll crush these ones up. And because we're using some fruit in it as well, we don't need quite so many biscuits. So this time, just half a packet, and you can save the rest for afternoon tea. And once you finish crushing those up, in the bowl with your prunes they go. So I'd start giving them a little bit of a stir. Probably a bit tricky with the spatula. This one's going to be a dirty hands affair. In with the condensed milk. Don't have to go all the way with this just yet. You can hold it for a bit just to make sure that it's still clingy and not too runny the way the other one's got a bit. So there you can see it's coming away from the side of the bowl pretty easily. I'm going to leave it to sit. It doesn't move too much. A little bit of movement's okay, because the fridge and the firming it up in there is going to take care of that. Okay, so when your mixture is ready to go through the magic of editing, you just need to pull it out and decide how big a rumble you're ready to eat. So grab a hold of a bit of the mixture, which you can see is nice and firm now. And it doesn't matter too much if it's like when it goes in the fridge, if it's a bit runny, because we're going to keep them in the fridge anyway. So these sort of blondie ones where it's just the condensed milk and the biscuits are really nice for little taste buds if they're still getting used to how things taste. If you want to add chocolate to them, obviously, you're more than welcome to do that. But yeah, you spend your time rolling up a bunch, and we'll find a couple different ways that we're going to present these different ways that kids like. So coconut covered ones are the classic. We'll just do 2 of those. Popping them in the bowl. You can already put your coconut down if you like, but you can also just sprinkle over the top at the now. Always reseal, especially with little ones around. And just give them a little roll. You see the condensed milk's still plenty sticky, and they get coated really nicely. And the other one, which is a little bit more involved, is the old hundreds and thousands. You could do this with chocolate ones, you could do this with those beautiful Dutch aniseed flavoured ones, all depending on what sort of things are your favourites. And you don't have to worry too much about how they come out. Them looking a little bit rough and ready is kind of the appeal. And so there we have the kids ones. And now we can do the chocolate, not chocolate. And so now we can do the ginger and prune ones. Now these, because we're going to cover them with cocoa, or cacao in this case, it's a little bit harder to work with, and we'll get on your fingers a bit more. So it can be nice to ball these up and then sprinkle it over the top and roll them all around. So I've used a bowl that's got a nice high side on it, so it's a little bit easier to stop them from getting away from you. So just starting with that 4 there. And of course you can do these in sprinkles if the big kids like those as well. And there you have your yum balls. A couple different flavors and different ways of doing it. You can mix and match what kind of dried fruit you put in them. That can be really nice. You can also put chocolate powder in with them, which obviously changes their color. But yeah, any kind of flavors, any kind of favorites, all ready to go. So I hope that looks like a bit of fun for you. And yeah, if you make some, please do let us know on social media. Post your little results to the Yarra Library's Facebook or Instagram. We'd love to see what sort of stuff you're getting up to in the kitchen. All right, folks, thanks for joining me. Bye.